Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Everybody Loves Jay, and we got a good one for you guys. This one is Mamdani, the New York City Mayor Mamdani. Look, he just started this year, and he's already showing us that socialism doesn't work. We try to tell you guys, we try to tell y'all. He's trying to blame it on, the last mayor, Eric Adams, and honestly, I don't know, because Adams is saying that he left the $8 billion surplus, but Mamdani's saying that there's a $12 billion deficit. So I don't know who to believe. Let's watch this together. Let's dissect. But it's funny because honestly, I don't feel bad for New York. They voted for him. They voted for a democratic socialist. In my eyes, it's just a socialist. This is what's gonna happen. They're starting. There's a lot of clips in here where they even tell them like, hey, like there's a cost for free. Even free has a cost. No, nothing is free, you guys. Nothing is free, and now they're starting to see it. They're starting to admit, okay, like there's nothing is free, and they're not talking about cuts or anything like that. But let's be real, they're gonna have to cut a lot of things just to break even because it's a business, right? You can't bankrupt the state, you can't bankrupt the city, nothing. Let's watch this together. I almost feel bad for the guy, but hey, he's just proving once again that socialism doesn't work and it has no place in America, not in a capitalist society. Here we go. Let's watch this.
Scribe is how you stop explaining the
Oh,
same
man,
thing
come on.
over and over.
Sorry,
at
guys.
work. Watch this. It'll change it.
Mayor Mamdani saying that he has inherited a staggering debt for the city and is calling now for
Inherited.
a tax hike. Dick Brennan spoke to some New Yorkers about what could happen to the mayor's ambition.
Calling for a tax hike. Well, how else is he gonna pay for this? How else is he gonna pay for this? We try to tell you guys. We try to tell you. Oh, you're gonna have to raise taxes, and that's what socialists do. They raise taxes. But here's the dangerous part about it all. They're gonna tell you that, that they need money, that they need to do cuts, that they need to. This is milk, by the way. That they need to make money, and that they need money to pay for all this. But how do you know there is no money, and now they're just gonna use it as an excuse to raise taxes? Well, again, I'm glad I don't live in New York. I'm so glad I don't live there. I'll take California anytime, anywhere, any day over New York.
Ambitious plans.
Please give me free buses. I am a college student. I have class in like 20 minutes. It's gonna cost me $3 to get here. I'm from Queens.
Emmanuel Vasquez
Yeah, class starts in 20 minutes, and you're talking to the news right now. Okay.
Rodriguez says he thinks Mayor Mamdani will find a way to find the money for his signature free buses, which would make all the difference in the world for him.
I don't have to worry about whether I have to buy transportation or not eat. Literally, I just decided today not to eat because I have less money on this Metro card.
But others we spoke to say Mamdani's plan
Welcome
will
to
just
Blue
mean
States.
they'll pay more.
I get frustrated by old politicians, but him, yes, definitely.
Because of taxes?
Because of everything. They're all full of it.
The mayor says the city is $12.6 billion in the red, and he wants to raise taxes on the wealthy and big.
And it's hard for Democrats to report this because they know they're all part of it. I think the crazy part is that people are seeing it. I'm sure they must have talked to people who never liked him anyway, who actually didn't vote for him or knew he was a bad idea. But it's frustrating. Yeah, he's right. Because, they're paying all these taxes and they're not seeing anything out of it. You don't get what you paid for and you got nothing to show for it.
Big businesses.
And what we are going to do is exhaust every option to make it clear that the time has come to reset the relationship between the city, its wealthiest residents, its most profitable corporations, and with Albany.
But he's on a collision course with Governor Hochul, who's running for re-election and dead set against new taxes.
The newsflash may be to you if you haven't heard me. We're not raising taxes in the state of New York. I'm not raising taxes for the sake of raising taxes. So he'll continue to say what he needs to say. I'll continue to say what I want to say. and you can report it any way you want.
The mayor laid the blame on the deficit.
She's full of shit, you guys. She's full of shit. She's the one that's trying to raise the cents per mile, so people are gonna have to pay to drive. Yeah, so fine, you're not gonna raise taxes, but you're gonna raise something else. That's always how it works, you guys. If they tell you they're cutting this, they're gonna raise that. It's like, pick your poison. Do you want to pay for this or do you want to pay for that? But you gotta pay for something. Look at this, Bloomberg, Politico. Look, all of these that are against Trump, all of them right here, all of them can't even hide it. It's hard for them to admit that Trump is right and that, well, drastic measures. But they're always going to say, oh, well, we had to because we have to blame this. No, you were going to do it anyway.
On Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams.
In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis.
Both Adams and Cuomo blasted back. Cuomo saying
Democrats
he hasn't
always
been governor
pointing
for
at someone
5
else.
years. Adams implied Mamdani was just trying to explain why he won't be able to make good on his campaign promises, adding that free is a lie. The finger pointing, a well-worn mayoral blame game.
Mayor Dinkins blamed Mayor Koch. Mayor Koch blamed Mayor Beam. Mayor Beam, backwards and forward.
And former press secretary to Mayor Bloomberg, Stu Lozier, says in budgeting and Albany, you can't always get what you want right away.
He might not get it done in 1 year. That doesn't, if that's what you want to do, better to start it and get the process going if your goal is to do this thing, because almost nothing gets done in Albany in 1 year.
This is a staggering number, Dick.
Yeah.
Should the mayor have known about this?
Well, the mayor says, they knew that there was going to be a deficit, but he said they had no idea, no indication it would be this large. He blames Mayor Adams for that. Of course, you heard the governor. She said,
no, they know. They know how big it is.
No new taxes. So this is going to be a really big uphill battle for the mayor to get what he wants, and it's going to be drawn out over the next few months.
Yeah, and of note that the governor is running for re-election as well. So this is a big issue.
A very big issue for the governor, and now a very big issue with the mayor. Can they come together? It's very, very much uphill. That's the word, to say the least.
Absolutely. Dick, thank you for that.
Thanks, Dick. All right, let me see. Got this one right here. Gusto.
Mayor Mamdani sounds the alarm about a massive $12 billion budget deficit and calls to tax the rich to close the gap.
Well, who else
I
is
will
going to
be
pay
blunt.
for it?
New York City is facing a serious fiscal crisis. We did not arrive at this place by accident. This crisis has a name.
Oops.
And a chief architect. In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis.
The mayor blames the Adams administration's mismanagement in part for the budget gap. Adams responded, saying he inherited a $10 billion debt that was compounded with the worst public health and economic crisis in New York City history. Mayor Mamdani has said he is more concerned about working-class New Yorkers leaving the city because of the high cost of living than about a business exodus because of the tax increase.
They don't care. They knew that was going to happen. All right, here we go. I think it was this one. I'm trying to see which one it was. That one's too long. We're not going to play that one. I think it was this one.
You, just you, building your app on base 44.
Shut up.
Good morning. I want to speak directly to New Yorkers who have for too long been misled and misinformed about the true state of our city's finances. I will be blunt. New York City is facing a serious fiscal crisis. There is a massive fiscal deficit in our city's budget to the tune of at least $12 billion.
Because the rich left.
We did not arrive at this place by
You
accident.
scared them away.
This crisis has a name and a chief architect. In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis. In 2025, under the banner of what he called the best budget ever, former Mayor Eric Adams handed the next administration a poisoned chalice. He systematically under-budgeted services that New Yorkers rely on every single day. Rental assistance, shelter, and special education, while quietly leaving behind enormous gaps for the future. And knowing his time in office was likely coming to an end, Mayor Adams chose political self-preservation over fiscal responsibility. This is not just bad governance, it is negligence. And now the responsibility falls upon us to protect working New Yorkers from paying the price. We expected for months that when we entered City Hall, we would likely inherit a grim fiscal situation. Many of the journalists here reported about an imbalance during the Adams years. Yet once we looked under the hood, the full picture was staggering. However, Eric Adams is not the only reason we are here. For over a decade, as he governed from Albany, former Governor Andrew Cuomo extracted our city's resources, using our revenue to address state-level holes while withholding from the city what it was owed. The result is a stunning fiscal imbalance. New Yorkers contribute 54.5% of state revenue and receive only 40.5% back. No part of this state gives more and gets less in return than New York City. While we did not create this crisis, we will solve it, and we will do so without balancing the budget on the backs of working people. Now, I want to walk New Yorkers through the nuances of this crisis that we must contend with.
Blah, blah, blah.
Here, you can see former Mayor Adams'
We've heard
projected
it all.
budget gaps, as well as the projections prepared by City Controllers Lander and Levine, as well as State Controller DiNapoli. These projections were formed independently, but they tell the same story. We are still reviewing the city's fiscal health ourselves, but our early analysis is in line with their findings. And the story that those findings tell is clear. The Adams administration dramatically and intentionally understated the problem. The budget gaps are twice as high year after year. Notably, Mayor Adams underestimated known budget expenses so he could show fiscal year 2026 was balanced. These are not differences in opinion between accountants. They are measured to the tune of more than $7 billion beyond what he published. We are dealing with vast figures and statistics that can often feel intangible. I want to place them into a historical context so that the scale of the crisis is clear to New Yorkers. For reference, the budget gaps we are facing today are higher than they were at the height of the Great Recession. And when compared to the pre-pandemic 10-year average, some of these projected deficits are over 300% higher. This is not business as usual. This is a historic challenge, and it demands an honest response. Time and again, Adams kicked the can of responsibility down the road. Last year, when he laid out his January and May financial plans, he not only failed to budget sufficiently, he ignored projections that indicated major expenses would rise in years to come. These expenses not only totaled nearly $8 billion, they're on an upward trajectory. And still, former Mayor Adams refused to incorporate them, leaving a massive $3 billion hole in fiscal year 2026. The budgetary choices he made in the past have consequences that we reckon with today, with ripple effects extending into the years to come. Former Mayor Adams made the repeated, deliberate choice to under-budget. It was a pattern. He budgeted $860 million for cash assistance this fiscal year, but current estimates are $1.625 billion, nearly double what he had accounted for. He budgeted $1.47 billion for shelter costs this fiscal year, but current estimates reflect an additional unaccounted for $500 million. He budgeted paltry fractions of what was actually required.
DEI hire, man. They don't know anything about math, so why do you put them in those positions?
Undermining the city's ability to fulfill its promises. These are not optional services. They are critical responsibilities of city government.
What the hell is this?
Let's talk about the state and city imbalance. In fiscal year 2022, New York City sent $68.8 billion in revenue to Albany and received $47.6 billion back. That is more than a gap. It is a $21.2 billion chasm, and it can no longer be sustained. It is measured in city schools that could have more teachers, parks that could have more staff, playgrounds that could be built across the 5 boroughs. That $21.2 billion gap occurred because over the decade Governor Cuomo was in office, the state saw our city as a place from which wealth could be extracted without recognizing the needs of that same place. New York City is the economic engine of this state. While we contribute the majority of state revenue growth, we do not receive the same proportion of state funds. From fiscal year 2010 to fiscal year 2022, a period where Andrew Cuomo served as governor for almost the entire duration, state revenue grew by $48 billion. New York City alone generated 64% of that
Who
growth,
keeps trying to
or
hack
$31
me,
billion.
man?
But when expenditures
Denied.
increased by $36 billion, New York City received only 42%, or $15 billion. Annually, that is an $8 billion shortfall of what our city was owed. Our city is one of multitudes, containing both incredible affluence and tremendous needs. And for too long, only half of that equation has been met. Each of these slides and the numbers they contain tell a clear story. It is the story of a city that is economically powerful and central to the success of the entire state, if not the entire country. And it is the story of a city that has been failed by its leaders of the past. Together, let us tell a new story. As we approach the preliminary budget, City Hall will do what the law requires. We will deliver a balanced budget over 2 fiscal years. We will also do, however, what former Mayor Adams never did. We will be clear and direct about our needs with Albany. Working people did not cause this crisis, and they cannot be made the victims of its solution. In my inaugural address, I made a promise. I said that we would overcome every moment of adversity together, and we would meet every moment of fiscal challenge with ambition, not austerity. That promise stands. We will not shrink from this moment. We will not succumb to small ideas. We will meet this crisis with the bold solutions it demands. That means recalibrating the broken fiscal relationship between the state and the city. And it means that the time has come to tax the richest New Yorkers and most profitable corporations. This is the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And yet we have allowed 1 in 4 New Yorkers to live in poverty. It doesn't need to be that way. We will remain in constant conversation with Governor Hochul and legislative leaders, and we will do something that too many New Yorkers have learned not to expect from City Hall. We will be honest, transparent, and we will communicate the decisions we're making and why we're making them. We have inherited a crisis from the past, New York, but it need not define our future. This moment of hardship and chart a new course for our city. It will be difficult, but anything worth doing always is. Thank you.
This is what they do. This is what they do. Democrats love to point the finger at someone else. Obama did it for like 8 years. He was blaming Bush. Oh my God, like every week. Oh, and then and it's funny because notice how Mamdani was, putting the blame on Adams and somewhat Cuomo, but Adams did it too to Cuomo before. But Cuomo was talking about COVID, which I mean I get it, but you know what the funny part is that they could point the finger as much as they want. Hey, okay, that's the past. Let's talk about the now. What are we gonna do now? But they do that so that if they fail, hey, my hands are clean. It was the last administration. There was so much I can do, blah, blah, blah. It's always the same, guys. Always the same. But people are going to vote for it. They continue voting for it. This is what they do.
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and it's insane. I don't do schedules or timesheets manually anymore. And it works?
Yeah, it works because you're killing a lot of jobs. Let's take one question.
I know you've been critical of former Governor Cuomo for the money that was not given to New York City, but he has been the governor since August 2021. What have your conversations been like with Governor Kathy Hochul about what the city is owed, while also knowing you need her buy-in to tax the wealthiest? And additionally, I know you're here saying that you want to be as clear to New Yorkers as possible, but you're not really giving details on how you could and would make cuts, saying you're going to look inward. I guess it sounds like therapy speak, but it's not really useful in practical terms for what the city and what New Yorkers, whether they're working class, the poorest or wealthiest New Yorkers, could go through while you're trying to get this budget correctly. So do you want to give more details?
Yeah. We are going to deliver a preliminary budget on February 17th. And when we do so, that will be a budget that lays out the specifics of this. What we wanted to do is be very clear with New Yorkers as soon as the scale of this fiscal
Let me
deficit
be clear.
came to our
That's what
attention.
they always say.
What it was, how we got here. In the time between now and the release of that preliminary budget, we are going to be sharing additional specifics, not only in terms of the fiscal gap once these revenues are accounted for, once these Wall Street bonuses are accounted for, but also the kinds of savings that we are pursuing. And that specificity is going to be one that makes clear we are looking not only to protect and deliver public goods, but also public excellence, public efficiency, and that we are not going to allow for this kind of a fiscal crisis to be the justification for pulling back on the kinds of city services that New Yorkers so desperately and deeply deserve.
My first question, what have your conversations with Governor Hochul been like? Because hasn't she and her state budget been withholding funds from the city since 2022?
I've been encouraged by our conversations with Governor Hochul, and I've been encouraged also by the relationship that we are building, which is a different kind of relationship than one that's typically been the case between City Hall and Albany. And I continue to have a belief in our ability to meet this kind of a challenge and to do so with the scale of response that's necessary.
Nope. Dear New York, get the fuck out of New York. Just leave. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. He doesn't have a plan. Raising taxes, okay, this guy already scared the rich people out of New York. Now he's saying we're gonna tax the wealthy. Well, now they're definitely not gonna come back, and now you just scared off the ones that haven't left yet. No. That's not how it works, man. You know, you gotta bring the jobs. You gotta bring jobs in. You gotta have everyone paying taxes on everything. You know, but there has to be money for you to do it, right? Well, there needs to be jobs for one to work and to make money, to buy goods and services, and, the tax revenue moves. So, I think he's making a big mistake by, chasing the rich out, and I really think he should reconsider that and, create jobs, bring a lot of services, bring a lot of CEOs, and, bring capitalism back to New York. New York thrived on capitalism. It's going to die with socialism. It's just going to fall. I think this is unfortunate. But those of you who voted for Mamdani, God bless you. Yeah. How's that going for you? Yeah. That's the problem, is that a lot of these people who vote for the socialists, communists, they're just going to leave anyway. They're on their way out. They're not going to stay. With what? With what money? What jobs? They're going to vote. They win. It gets bad. And that person who voted for him leaves. And they just leave it behind. But like the boomers, the older people, the ones who were doing good, not voting for this guy, now they have to suffer the consequences. Honestly, yeah. I think, my neighbor told me this once. Stupid people should not be allowed to vote. Because this is what happens. Good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Everybody Loves Jay. If you were here for the other character that I do, can't really say who because it's my alter ego. Not for this one. Only comes out with certain subjects, if you know what I mean. This one I wasn't afraid to show my face because we were right. We were posting about it. We were posting every day on Instagram that this was a bad idea. And now look, has no plan, doesn't know what to do, and, he has his head in the sand. Sorry, guys. Try to warn you. Yeah. Godspeed.